Here.
Alpetros, Swager,
Here.
Livingood,
Here.
Peterson,
Here.
Hoffman, Mr. Petty,
Here.
Mr. Dunham.
Here.
Item 3, public comments and announcements. Item 4, approval of the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda. Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Peterson,
Aye.
Swager,
Aye.
Egger,
Aye.
Livingood.
Aye.
Got 4 ayes.
Item 5, discussion and possible action on approval of resolution 20-10 supporting the Main Street program in the city of Guymon, Oklahoma.
Well, this resolution is a resolution that we do annually, showing our support for the Main Street program. We did approve on May 5th, funding to Main Street in the amount of $30,000. So there's no funding attached to this program or this resolution. It could help Main Street qualify for additional funding, though. Just as a point of information. I've invited Lynn Johnson here to try to answer any questions if you have them. And if you have any questions, I'm going to actually direct them to Lynn. So that's all that I have at this time.
So what are we asking us to do?
All we're doing is asking us for a resolution of support.
Well, I sure do that. I make a motion that we give Main Street Guymon a resolution of support.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second.
Swager,
Aye.
Egger,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Livingood.
Aye.
Got 4 ayes.
I wanted to watch this one.
Thank you guys, by the way. We appreciate all you do. And by the way, she was a jewel working with us. Thanks.
Item 6, discussion and possible action to approve resolution 20-11 concerning funding pursuant to the CARES Act, the Coronavirus Relief Fund, confirming that it is the policy of the city that all public safety personnel costs are substantially dedicated to the COVID-19 response efforts of the city throughout the ongoing state of emergency.
Well, this is a resolution that is required for you to pass for us to, for the city to use public safety salaries, present them for reimbursement. For the first time period, for the first time frame that we submitted, we have already submitted some for reimbursement in anticipation of your approval of this. The first set of salaries that was sent in was roughly $1.2 million. So I would encourage you to pass resolution number 2111 for us to submit public safety personnel costs as primarily dedicated to the COVID response.
Make a motion that we approve resolution 20-11 concerning funding pursuant to the CARES Act and Coronavirus Relief Fund.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Peterson,
Aye.
Swager,
Aye.
Egger,
Aye.
Livingood.
Aye.
Got 4 ayes.
Item 7, discussion and possible action to approve resolution number 20-12, approving the right-of-way public utility and encroachment agreement with the Department of Transportation of the state of Oklahoma.
Okay, we passed a similar resolution to this and kind of a partner resolution to this a few months ago. ODOT is going to be doing some highway extensions along US 136 from US Highway 412 for about 2.4 miles. in there, there could be some relocation of utilities that we would be required to do. This is a requirement by state statute that you pass this to have this work done. But they will be doing some major reconstruction and improvements in the highways, the highway system that runs through Guymon. There could be the possibility of about $8,942 that would be our expense for the relocation of some of the utilities. But I would recommend the passage of the resolution.
Making a motion that we approve resolution 20-12, approve the waterway public utility improvement agreement for public transportation with the state of Oklahoma.
I have a motion and a second.
Edgar,
Aye.
Swager,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Livengood.
Aye.
We've got 4 ayes.
Item 8, discussion and possible action to authorize the mayor to execute a right-of-way public utility and encroachment agreement with the Department of Transportation of the State of Oklahoma.
This is the agreement that goes along with Resolution 2012. And basically, it kind of outlines what would happen, and the plans for the project are supplied as backup document. Also, as part of the backup documentation is the cost estimates. The entire project is going to be an $857,664 project. With the 80% of the cost coming from federal funds, 20% of the cost coming from state funds, and part of that 20% is divided out between the state's cost of 10 at $8,994 and the city at $8,942. But they'll be doing about approximately $857,000 worth of street improvements throughout the city of Guymon, along the highways from along 412 from US Highway, along State Highway 136 from Highway 412.
Discussion.
I make a motion with agenda item number 8.
Second.
A motion and a second.
Edgar,
Aye.
Peterson, Swager,
Aye.
Livengood.
Aye.
We've got 4 ayes.
Item 9, discussion and possible action to authorize the mayor to sign resolution 20-13, allowing the city of Guymon to proceed with the Bureau of Reclamation Water Smart Water and Energy Efficiency Grant.
Well, this grant, we've talked about it a couple of different times over the past couple of months. It is the grant to install AMR meters for the city of Guymon. The grant portion will go to help fund the water meter portion of the program. The water meter portion of the program is estimated to be $2.7 million, and that would be the grant application. The city would be, it's a 50-50 grant matching grant, so the city would be required to put up $1,350,000 as grant in other funds or in-kind type labor. this would help fund the water portion, which is the biggest portion of the project. The gas meter part of the project will be about $1,464,000 for, so the city's total portion of the project is $2,814,000, and the total project cost are $4,164,000. So we're getting a $4.1 million project done for $2.8 million.
How long do we have to raise the funds? Several years down the road.
We're working on the grant. The application has to be in place. The application has to be enacted and turned in by the 17th of this month. So it'll go through their approval process, and it'll be part of next year's budget, is what it'll be. And it'll be part of that budgeting process for the matching funds. I don't anticipate being able to start the bidding portion of this for another 2, maybe 3 months, and then we'll have a month's worth of bidding. So we're 4 to 6 months out before we are able to award a grant, award the project. We're trying to get some vendors lined up for us to start interviewing. It is a big project. It'll affect utility billing. It'll affect IT. It'll obviously affect water and gas departments. And we're going to try to get all those people in and talk and get with the vendors individually and kind of talk about what their solutions could be. And just kind of get some of that preliminary interviewing out of the way. But what started us along this path also was that we are starting to have issues with our handheld meter reading, uploading and downloading the information to the bills.
I make a motion that we authorize the mayor to sign the resolution number 2013 allowing the city of Guymon to proceed with the Bureau of Reclamation Water.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second.
Swiper.
Aye.
Bicker.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Livengood.
Aye.
Got 4 ayes.
Item 10, discussion and possible action to approve change order number 1 for Multicom for the Nash Soccer Complex, in the amount of $18,701.38.
Okay, when they were preparing the documentation and we were preparing the bid information, we made the assumption that there was a 12-inch sleeve underneath the driveways at Prairie Elementary School. When the contractor got in there, or the subcontractor got in there to do the work, we found out that piping was not there. So we're gonna need two directional bores that would be encased with 12-inch steel pipe, and it'll be between both of them. It'll be approximately 90 feet. It'll cross both driveways at Prairie Elementary. This is a cost increase of about $18,701.38. Or no, excuse me. Yeah, $18,701.38. I don't anticipate this to be a huge impact on the finances for that project, because I know that we have already done the soil stabilization study, and we are not going to be required to do any kind of soil stabilization, which will end up reducing our contract by approximately $140,000. So we had, with the soil stabilization savings, we're still looking at a substantial savings off the project. I recommend the approval of the change order. They will, the rain may be slowing them down this week, but I know that their plans were to be in here tomorrow and start the directional bores. But the rain may slow them down.
I make a motion that we approve the change order number 1 from Multicon for the National Complex in the amount of $18,701.38.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Peterson.
Aye.
Haver.
Aye.
Swaver.
Aye.
Livingood.
Aye.
Got 4 ayes.
Discussion and action to authorize the city manager to gather prices to purchase 2 buses for the transportation department in excess of $50,000.
Yeah, we're going to be, we've gotten the go-ahead from the Department of Transportation to move forward with the purchase of these 2 buses. We'll be using the Department of Transportation's CARES Act money that we approved not too long ago at about $287,000. This is an additional funding on top of the $847,000 that the state had approved for the city of Guymon. We will be purchasing these buses off of the state contract, but the prices are for each bus will be in excess of $50,000, and our ordinances require me to get council approval prior to putting anything out for bid or making a purchase in excess of $50,000. The final purchase price will be brought back to the city council to approve. I would anticipate that at the October meeting. The $287,000 that we have in ODOT CARES money will pay for the 2 buses.
I'll make a motion that we authorize the city manager to gather prices for the purchase of 2 buses for transportation department in excess of $50,000.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Peterson.
Aye.
Swaver.
Aye.
Haver.
Aye.
Livingood.
Aye.
Got 4 ayes.
Item 12, discussion and possible action on approval of the Guymon Public Library and Art Center 2020 meeting policy.
Well, the Guymon Public Library and Arts Center, in the staff, in conjunction with the library board members, have prepared a policy that will allow them to weed out the books and the curriculum and the items that are no longer needed. The library right now is we're running out of room, and we need to get rid of some of the books and things that nobody checks out and we no longer use. I think once approved, we'll start going through the collection and picking out the things that are not needed any longer. And I'll first probably offer them up to other libraries to see if they may want them, or we may try to have the additional items, may try to have a book sale of some sort for the public. But the library board is making the recommendation to approve this weeding policy.
We don't already have something in place for that?
No.
We do not have no. Blair, I'm sorry, Blair, I didn't see you there. It's hard to tell when we're all wearing masks. Would you like to, have I
I can-
sufficiently described that? You have anything to add?
Take this off.
The situation that we're going through at the moment is that the library has not been weeded in over 10 years. So we have material that is outdated, material that is factually inaccurate because of changes in information in certain areas like science, math, and so on. And the materials that just were never checked out. We do try to utilize all the shelves except for the top and the bottom shelves because those are difficult for people to reach. So we are coming into an issue of running out of space in certain areas. Since it hasn't been weeded in a very long time, we are looking at a very large project to weed right now. This policy will allow us in the future to not have to weed so much at once, but weed certain sections through different years. So like next year would be one section, the following year would be a different section. And this helps to keep the collection fresh, attractive. It also helps with our application for state funding, because if the state sees that we have a whole lot of outdated materials, they are less likely to give us the money that we ask for.
I'm just surprised that's not at your discretion to start.
I have tried in the past and was told not to. So I thought it would be best to have this in place.
I make a motion
Okay.
that we approve the Guymon Public Library and Arts Center weed policy.
I'll second. Yeah.
I have a motion and a second.
Swinger.
Aye.
Hager.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Livengood.
Aye.
Dr. Rice.
Please stay away from my trash can.
Item 13, discussion and possible action on approving an 8-inch water line for the new Victory Center Church for 28,000 square feet of development located north of Pioneer Plaza as recommended by the Planning and Zoning Committee.
Okay, Planning and Zoning Committee is recommending the approval of this, the 8-inch water line going from our nearest access point. The Victory Church will be constructing this, constructing the water line and installing the fire hydrants and items that are needed for their use, but then they will also be doing that to our status, to the City of Guymon standards. That way they would be able to assign that water line back to the City of Guymon for maintenance. Now, on a new water line, I don't expect to have maintenance real soon, but the other thing that this would allow us to do, once they assign it back over to us for maintenance, it allows us to either extend it as we see fit, or it allows us to tap onto it as we need for other customers. So I would recommend that the council approve the 8-inch water line for the new Victory Church as recommended by the Planning and Zoning Committee.
Does 8-inch give us ample sizing?
8 inches is a standard size for this type of project, yes. It's typically the size that you'll find for fire hydrants.
Can we run water lines outside the city limits? Is contractor doing it? It's all right?
The contractor is doing it, and yes, we can service water outside of service customers outside of the city limits. I would be surprised if we're not servicing customers outside of the city limits already. Typically, those customers are charged a premium for the water that they get. Yeah, but yes, we are allowed to service outside the city limits.
When they have to be constructed, we all DEQ requirements.
Yeah, it'll have to be constructed to DEQ satisfaction and standards. And that's where it comes in with the, they're going out 2,800 Isn't that right? 28,000 square feet. Well, that's the size of the development. The DEQ requires that a fire hydrant be placed every 500 feet. So if you start at Northwest 24th Street and start moving down Sunset Lane on that proposed water line, every 500 feet will be a fire hydrant.
Is there any kind of annexation that needs to go on with that, or is it?
Does not have to be annexed inside the city limits to do that or to make those, to install that water line. Matter of fact, I think the state legislature has, what a lot of cities used to do is do strip annexation. I think through some recent legislation, that's not allowed anymore. So we would have to annex in a sizable chunk of property to do that, to bring it inside the city limits.
And I realize that's not a big advantage to us, like Charlie's a nonprofit, I assume, so. Probably.
Tracy, do you have anything you'd like to add to this?
No, not so much. I think it's a good thing for them, for us. It comes off of the northwest booster pump station, so there's a 16-inch line that they'll be tapping. I'm sure in the engineering study will show that little 8-inch line will support what they're wanting to do.
Yeah.
Now, we're assuming at the 500 foot, this will be a residential area. It's probably not going to be zoned commercial. I mean, it'd been nice if they could have worked through some of the problems that they was having with utility easements, but for the commercial part of it, but I think this will be to our advantage, to their advantage.
I make a motion that we approve the 8-inch water line for the new Victory Center Church for 28,000 square feet development located in Pioneer Plaza.
I'll second. I have a motion and a second.
Peterson.
Aye.
Ecker.
Aye.
Swager.
Aye.
Littlefield.
Aye.
About 4 ayes.
Item 14, discussion and possible action on approving the funding request in the amount of $2,500 for the Jim Hitch Memorial Tournament as recommended by the Convention and Tourism Board.
Well, the Convention and Tourism Board met on July 30th to review the application for the Jim Hitch Memorial Junior Golf Tournament. The application amount was $5,000, but the event was, because of COVID, the event was going to change from a 2-day event to a 1-day event for this project, for this year. And they only awarded $2,500. And so we're here asking you to approve the expenditure of $2,500 from the hotel motel revenue fund for the purpose of this grant. I think this is been kind of an annual event in the community for quite some time.
Make a motion that we approve the funding request in the amount of $2,500 for the Jim Hitch Memorial Tournament, recommended by the Convention and Tourism Board.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Peterson.
Aye.
Swager.
Aye.
Ecker.
Aye.
Littlefield.
Aye.
About 4 ayes.
Item 15, discussion and possible action on funding of the OPSU bronc riding school from the Convention and Tourism Funds in the amount not to exceed $2,500.
The OPSU bronc riding school was held on August 28th through the 30th. We tried to have a Convention and Tourism Board meeting virtually to approve this application, but we're unable to get a quorum put together for that meeting. The event brought in 28 students 5 for the saddle bronc, and 3 for the bareback riding. These students were from 13 different states, with Arizona, the Dakotas, and Florida being some of the furthest away. The event was free for the public to go watch. Anybody could attend as a spectator. The hotel motel fund has a budget balance of $44,169. The marketing and promotions line item of this budget has a balance of $45,751. The budget, the requested funds would go toward the purchase of the awards that were given to the students and for advertising that was placed. I did happen to attend that event, found it for a little while on Saturday the 29th, found it to be kind of interesting. Most of the students, I think I told all but 3 of the students stayed in hotel rooms here in Guymon. And at that, I'd recommend that we, I think this has been a semi-regular event for Guymon over the past few years. I think it moved to Goodwill. Well, it moved away once. I'm trying to find something. But there have been a few times that it was not held in Guymon or in Goodwill, the OPSU arena. But they've moved it back there now. I recommend the approval of the $2,500 being requested.
I make a motion that we approve the OPSU Bronc Riding School for commission and tourism funds for the $2,500. That's a big event. I know there's a lot of stock contractors that bring colts in to have them buck this day tonight too.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a big, it's,
I'll second.
It was an interesting thing to watch.
Have a motion and a second.
Stover,
Aye.
Edgar,
aye.
Peterson, Livengood. About 4 ayes.
Item 16, discussion and action on the appointment of Andy Scott to the Guymon Golf Board for an unexpired term ending in December 2022.
Well, the golf board has met, they reviewed applications. They are recommending Andy Scott be appointed to their board for an unexpired term ending in December of 2022. The minutes of the meeting are here along with Mr. Scott's application. I'd recommend that we appoint Mr. Andy Scott to the golf board.
Make a motion for the appointment of Andy Scott to the Guymon Golf Board for an unexpired term ending in December of 2022.
Second.
Have a motion and a second.
Stover,
Aye.
Edgar,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Livengood. About 4 ayes.
Item 17, reports from committees, council members, and city manager.
I got a little bit. Last Thursday, the governor made a trip to Guymon. It was a pretty well defined format for the trip. It was to start out that tour of Seaford and we brought up to date opinion on our economics and some other things. Due to COVID, it's a very restricted audience. Most of our local organizations, Main Street, whatever, school representatives there for lunch. There's also an ag roundtable and a COVID business relief roundtable that afternoon. He was accompanied by Secretary of Ag Lane Arthur, Commissioner of Health Colonel Lance Fry, his Policy Director Senator Brian Beaman, and Director of the Department of Commerce, their Executive Director Brooke Keith. Also with the P&M State presented a $200,000 grant check for the Bee Lab. They took him out to the gun range. He got to shoot 1,000 yards with a big gun and 3 shots and hit the target. And then he got to shoot another gun and a lot of points. But it was a real quick day, but he'll be back. We had a great time. I think everybody got to interact, but he did make a trip to one of the schools. Very elementary walk through. He was quite impressed with the guidance. It was a great day for him. That's all I got.
Well, I would echo what the Vice Mayor said. I know through the meetings that we had with the governor, I don't know exactly what he learned, but there were quite a few things that I learned from those meetings and listening to from the businesses and the citizens of Guymon. And I'm sure we'll be addressing some of those things in the future. A lot of the things that they were talking about, I know that some of the business we're talking about is some things that we've kind of been working toward, is some business type incentives that we could offer, and it was very educational. Wanted to give a brief report on the Guymon COVID-19 situation. For the city of Guymon, currently there have been 1,001 person tested positive. There's been 7 deaths, and then according to the health department website, there's 915 recovered. So that means there's about 86 active cases. This is steadily risen over the past month. I know one of the last times I looked at it, I think at our last meeting there might have been 44 active cases, and now we're up to 86. Some of the meaningful events that have gone on in Guymon is that the schools have gone to what's called an AB schedule. What that'll mean is that if your last name begins with A through L, you're going to be attending in-person classes on Monday and Tuesday, with virtual classes being Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. If your last name begins with M through Z, you'll attend virtual classes Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and in-person classes on Thursday and Friday. Over the past month, I've passed along to you several ordinances, resolutions, or proclamations that other communities have made. As I become aware of these documents, I will be forwarding them to you just so that you can see what some of the other communities in the state are doing. One of the big issues that I've heard the most about here recently is the requirement of masks or facial shields. I think one of the things that was very evident from the governor's visit last week, he is not going to be issuing a statewide proclamation or executive order requiring face masks or face shields. He's leaving that up to the local control and the cities, where if they deem that they need it, they can pass that ordinance, and that local control would rest with you gentlemen. But if anything else changes, I'll let you know. We've got Grant here, who is Fire Chief, EMS Director. Grant, do you have anything that you'd like to add to the COVID report before we move forward? Before I move on?
As he stated, just to give you an update, within the last 7 days, COVID in this area has increased by about 14, 15 people per day. This is not viewed on the Oklahoma site all the time. There's more positive cases that are being reported to the state. Clinics and stuff around the area are reporting them, but they're not being loaded up as often as possible. So what the city manager said is true. They've got that many, but I'm telling you, there are more positives out there. There's a difference between just being positive and being symptomatic. We're seeing more and more people that are asymptomatic. In other words, they're not showing signs and symptoms. They're not sloughing off as many the viruses, and that's what's difficult is who has that, who doesn't. We're also seeing a larger increase in COVID illnesses. People that are being hospitalized. Currently, as of this afternoon, Woodward's COVID unit is completely full. We were advised this afternoon also Liberal's COVID unit is completely full. We know Amarillo is getting close to being full. So we're running out of places to take people that are that needs hospitalization. So we're having to move a lot further. Locally, we're in talks with Enid Hospital for those that have to stay within the state of Oklahoma. Enid and Oak City are next closest hospitals that they have to be transported to. The deaths, I know Greg said that there's 7. We're aware of several more than that, and we're waiting for the state to determine that. But again, we're waiting for them. So I think that the numbers that you're seeing from the state of Oklahoma are a little bit behind than what we see locally, and that's just because of this mass that this is going on. I believe also today the state of Oklahoma put out publicly that they're now, if you're presumptive positive, that they're going to say that you're positive. And it's kind of a blow. It's really going to disrupt, I think, more of our education schools and colleges, because then they turn around and put those people in quarantine immediately, whether they are positive or not. It's presumptively they're positive. In other words, if you have a cough, shortness of breath, and a fever that is not COVID positive, what they're saying is they're just going to say you're presumptively positive, and you may be on a 10-day quarantine right there and then. I foresee that being kind of a problem with the public schools and the colleges right off the bat. That came out just this afternoon.
And the health department's doing that?
Health
I
department.
just want to know who to blame when my kid can't pour cereal out of the box.
But we are working close with that. I know the schools, Angela has been a diehard trying to get this taken care of. She's been talking with school officials downstate, state officials. But it's real. It's large. We're going to see as I told you many months ago, I believe October is going to be our height. I still think we're on track for that. But we're starting off awfully high right now in the beginning of September. We are on day 8 right now, and I know already, right before I came here, we're on our 13th transport of a known COVID positives. Last month, I think we had 12 total, 12 to 13. Let's see what our report says. But I know we're already at 13 within the first 8 days. And these are some severe cases that we're seeing too. COVID has not gone away. It is still here. It did not go away during June, July, and August. It's been here. It's just the testing is coming out more prevalently. Clinics are being able to test more. And we're going to see that still the 10 to 20% of the population has positive COVID. It does not mean that they're symptomatic, but they're positive. And I think taking the proper precautions, such as social distancing, the biggest thing is wearing masks. When you're anywhere in public or around people, that is the biggest thing that you need to do. And of course, good sanitation, good washing your hands, and so forth. Those really do work, and it's nothing new. It's been around since 1918. And some of the Mr. Peterson was talking about that. Some of the same things that are going on in 1918 in Guymon, Oklahoma, are the exact same things that we're seeing right now. And if you don't believe me, you need to look up history of Guymon. The Guymon Democrat newspaper back then from October of 1918. And you don't know if they're talking about the Spanish influenza or the COVID-19 of 2020. It reads almost the same as some of their issues that they're having at the same time. Mr. Bailey, I think you wear that article too, possibly. It's amazing. Things that happened back then in this area still about today. Thank you.
Okay. Next, I'd like to talk a little bit about the finances for the city of Guymon. With all things being considered, we're not in too bad a shape. Right now, our revenues are approximately 3% above what was budgeted. We are seeing some decline. Our sales tax is exactly where we want it to be. Our sales tax is about almost 1% below where we would have liked it to be if we were rounding up. We're looking at it being about 13% down from last year. No, I'm sorry, make it 7% down from last year. I was off one line. When we're looking at our budget for next year, we're going to be projecting a pretty flat sales tax revenues. The use tax revenues are about 14% below where they were last year. So when we're looking at each one of those areas, it's pretty hard to get excited about buying a lot of new product. We need to be watching our money, I think. The utility revenues that we have, at the end of August, our combined utility usage is about 2% above where it was last year at the same time, and it's about even with where we were budgeted. So we're that's running pretty flat without any. Since we're not looking at any substantial rate increases or anything right now, our budget revenues for sales tax or for utilities will also be flat for next year. Our expenses are about 18% less than what was budgeted. This has been accomplished through very selective capital improvement purchasing this year, and holding off on some things, and actually putting some things off that we ought to be probably taking care of. There's a lot of reasons that we need to be holding off on those right now. Everything because of trying not to overspend this year to having personnel issues. Some of the things we'll be looking at for next year as far as our budget is concerned, we're going to be looking at the reconstruction of at least 2 new water wells with additional water storage facilities. We are working on a grant for that project. Trying to figure out but right now we're trying to figure out exactly what that project may cost us. We're going to have the strategic rehabilitation of a couple of water wells. We are looking at doing reconstruction on one water well this year, well number 15. That is the one that we've identified would probably be able to yield the most from some repairs. And so we're looking real hard at starting that in and around October. Once some of the usage has gone down a little bit more and we're not relying so much on our water usage. We're looking at doing the automated meter reading project. Of course, we're looking at the completion of the Nash soccer complex and the installation or the construction of a dog park within the Guymon city limits. One of the things that we need to be thinking about, I'd like for you to be thinking about, and I'll be reaching out to you a little bit later, is the days you might be able to meet for a budget retreat, for us to discuss how the budget is coming together, what kind of revenues we expect, and what we want to see what we want our city to look like in the future. I'm going to jump back just a little bit to inform you that we have been allocated for above and beyond the $30,000 that we got from for the airport, and above and beyond the $287,000 that we got for the transportation system, $847,574, and we have received that money. So that's gone a long way to help boost our revenues. There is the possibility that I'm still checking, that we would have received about $48,000 last month. If that is the case, if we have received that $48,000, we are going to be setting that aside in a new savings account for at least a year, maybe two, because I don't want the federal government to come back and say, oh, wait a minute, you were allocated $847,000. We gave you nearly $900,000. We want our money back. We want that roughly $48,000 back. If they do come back and say that, I want to be able to write them a check and say, here you go. We are going to continue to submit for reimbursements, basically till the state says, I don't want to see your reports anymore. Because I have a feeling there will be some additional money later on in the year. And I want us to be first at the trough if there's any there. I want us to have our reports ready and ready to go, because I don't think it'll take long to, I don't think we'll have a big window to get that information turned in. So if we're ready for it, we'll be able to submit it real quickly. And Mayor and Council, that would be my report. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any new business? 19 will stand adjourned. Guymon City Council. Thank you, everyone.